Bonjour tout le monde. As I'm sure you've established by now, this video is all about the irregular French verb savoir, which means to know. Some people do have some problems using savoir because they're aware that connaître also means to know, but they're not the same. Savoir is all about knowing facts and information, whereas connaître is more about being familiar with things. For example, knowing people, knowing places, and knowing words. So I don't know the word is je ne connais pas le mot, not je ne sais pas le mot. That doesn't make any sense. I also want to briefly mention that to know how to do something in French is savoir faire quelque chose. You don't actually need to translate the word how. So for example, I know how to swim is je sais nager, not je sais comment nager. It's not a major problem if you do say je sais comment nager, people will understand you, but this is quite a common expression, so I thought I would mention that. So now let's have a look at some of the conjugations, starting with the present tense, which is je sais, tu sais, il, elle, on sait, nous savons, vous savez, and ils, elles savent. There's nothing too strange going on there, so that shouldn't be too difficult to remember. Passé composé is also quite simple. Savoir uses avoir as its auxiliary, so we start with the present tense of avoir, and its past participle is su. So we have j'ai su, tu as su, il, elle, on a su, nous avons su, vous avez su, and ils, elles ont su. For the imperfect, we use the same method that we always use. The new form of the present tense is savons. Remove the ONS from that and you get the stem sav, and to that add the ending. So we have je savais, tu savais, il, elle, on savait, nous savions, vous saviez, and il, elle savait. The future simple isn't too difficult. The stem is saur. If you are having trouble remembering that though, if you're familiar with avoir, you'll know that the future stem for that is or, and the future stem for savoir is the same, just with an S in front of it. And savoir is just avoir with an S in front of it, so maybe that'll help. And then to that we add the future endings. So we have je saurai, tu sauras, il, elle, on saura, nous saurons, vous saurez, and ils, elles sauront. One thing I will say about this is make sure you pronounce it right. It's saurai, not serai, because of course that's the future of être. So saur, not ser. Once you know that, the conditional is simple. Conditional stem is the same as the future stem, and then to that add the imperfect endings. Je saurai, tu saurais, il, elle, on saurait, nous saurions, vous sauriez, and ils, elles sauraient. The subjunctive of savoir is another one of those that I really like. We have je sache, tu saches, il, elle, on sache, nous sachions, vous sachiez, and il, elle sache. Kind of sounds like waves or something else poetic like that. Other than that though, this is actually quite easy to remember because it's another one of those that just has an irregular stem to which we add the endings that we'd normally add to the subjunctive. So just remember sache and then add the regular subjunctive endings and you're fine. You don't need to remember them all individually. The passé simple is another one of those that if you know the past participle, you can kind of guess the passé simple. Of course, you don't need to know it in detail, as I say, every single time. But if you can guess it, then why not? We have je sus, tu sus, il, elle, on sus, nous sûmes, vous sûtes, and ils, elles surent. So you see the connection with the past participle, which is su, without the endings. And finally, the imperative for savoir is very similar, but not exactly the same as the subjunctive. So we have sache, sachons, and sachez. So, as is often the case, we've removed the S from the to form of sache in the imperative. That's quite common. And also the nous and vous form don't have the I that the subjunctive forms do. So sachons, sachez, not sachions, sachez. So be careful with that, but you can use the subjunctive as a guide if you can't remember the imperative. And there we have, that is a brief overview of savoir. I'm not expecting you to be an expert on it, this is just a quick glance at all of the conjugations. If you want to know more irregular verbs, then the playlist is there for your convenience. If there's anything in this video that I've said that you've not understood, it's likely that I've gone over it in another video, and so you can go to my verb playlist to look up anything that I've said. Of course, if you can't find anything and you just want to ask me, then by all means do. There are many ways to contact me. And there we go, that's it for savoir. I'll see you in the next video, and à bientôt!